So the next step for your transparency portrait is actually transferring the image that I took of you and that I created black and white and enlarged onto the 8.5 by 11 inch paper onto the transparency. So here you can see my older image and what I did before. So you're going to need your printed image like this, and you are going to need your transparency. Now when you get your transparency, you're going to notice that there's a white strip here. You can just take this white strip and just peel it off and throw that white strip away. You do not need that. In fact, you want to remove that. So the next step is making sure that the base of your neck or shoulder area is at the bottom of this. So if I take a look at this particular photo, you'll notice I made this a little bit smaller, so I have this space here. I don't want to line it up perfectly with the paper. I would take the transparency and I would move the transparency up so the transparency is at the bottom of where my image starts, even if that means I have extra transparency at the top, because this just allows for more background. And so this one's done a little bit differently because I have more of a full-size image. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cover this up. I'm going to take a little bit of tape, some masking tape, and I'm just going to take a small piece. I'm going to tack this down, and I'm going to place a little piece of paper here and a little piece of tape. I shouldn't say paper, tape. And the reason I'm doing this is so that the transparency doesn't shift. Okay, so the next thing that's going to happen, you're going to take a fine Sharpie and you are going to begin to trace all of your main pieces. So I'm going to go ahead here and I'm going to trace all my main parts. So anything that I see here. Now I'm going a little fast. Please take your time because it will make a difference. I'm just going to block off my eyebrows. I can go in and I can add if I want to, I can also add my wrinkle lines. I'm not as young as you whippersnappers, so I have a little bit more age to me than you do. So I'm just going to go in and I am going to follow and trace all of my main lines. Now, sometimes we make mistakes. And so let's say hypothetically I take this and I go, oops, you know, I made a mistake. I came out of the glass. I have some rubbing alcohol that I will open. I will pour a little tiny bit of the rubbing alcohol in the cap. I will set the cap aside, and you can take a Q-tip and go in and you can take off that marker with the rubbing alcohol and then wipe it away. The one thing I will have to tell you is that you need to do this fairly quickly. So as soon as you make a mistake and you realize that you made a mistake, you want to go ahead and do the rubbing alcohol, because if you let the marker sit on the transparency paper for too long, it's going to be harder to take that marker up. It's going to kind of set itself onto the transparency. And then when you're done tracing everything, you're going to be able to take this off and kind of see what you have there. You can put your hand in there, double check to make sure you have everything, that you didn't forget something if you're missing an eye or missing an eyebrow, or just kind of check your details to make sure that you have everything that you want. The other thing I just need to note is that you are not tracing the background, okay? Your background is the background that you painted, so you're really only tracing all the main details of your portrait. So here you can see I added more of my shirt in here, and then on this one I added, I made my face a little bit bigger. So in this one I also left my skin unpainted, and in this one I'm going to paint my skin, so you can kind of hopefully towards the end, you'll see the difference between the two examples. Okay, so that is your next step, tracing, getting your black and white copy, getting your transparency, fine permanent marker, and taping it down, and tracing all your main pieces. When you do your hair, because I have kind of spiky hair, when you do your hair, try not to put lines in it. Instead, think of it in terms of kind of blocking it out. Okay, you're better off kind of doing, kind of outlining, because when you go to add the paint, your lines in painting, you're going to have some directional lines, which we'll talk about in the next step. So that's your next step, and have fun tracing. Be careful, take your time, and try not to make any mistakes.